Hey, I'm Jimmy the Dean, and today I'm going to address the question that's been asked me: why are there so many denominations, and is that a good thing? Now, just to make sure everyone who might be watching this understands the question, because I'm not going to presume where you're coming from. You might be someone who's not even inside Christianity, and you might be like, wow, what's going on there, right? Or you might be someone who is in denominationalism and looking at it and being like, this gets a bit freaky. Is this part of the whole polarization problem? Well, let me just slow down and remind everyone for a moment that I'm going to suggest to you that denominationalism was always in the plans of God. Or if you come from the Catholic tradition, you might call it orders. You know, they have their same thing, the Franciscans, Dominicans, it might be some of the Cistercians or something like that. They've managed the dynamics of diversity differently within Catholicism. But all that to said, I'm going to suggest to you that it's always been in the plan of God for there to be a certain form of diversity honored. Now, let me just try to give you an example to explain that. Have you ever been in an old downtown theater? Like the ones where you go to see a Broadway play, Broadway-esque musical theater kind of situation. You know how they've squeezed so many seats in such a small area? And once you're in that theater, your position in the theater actually influences the way you experience the play. I once tried to impress a significant other by purchasing those round seats near the front. You know those, can you picture the ones I'm talking about? Where you might think Lincoln was sitting at the Lincoln Theater. Actually, was he at the Lincoln Theater? I don't know, man. You should lose some confidence in whether or not I'm a good person to ask questions. But you know those round ones up near the front that you sit in. Well, anyway, I purchased one of those once, but guess what? I found out as soon as I sat down in that spot, you can't see 1/3 of the stage. Now, what you can see is you get to see some of the details of the amazing artistry of how microphones are hidden in beard lines or in wigs or something like that. And so you get to experience aspects of the play in a way that someone sitting in upper mezzanine left doesn't. So let's just say that I'm sitting at intermission and we're comparing notes with someone who was sitting in a different part of the theater, and that person is talking to me about how there was a particular fight scene where Oliver stepped, let's just say it's the play, Oliver stepped into a punch that was being thrown and accidentally got punched and fell to the ground. And I might be sitting there going, goodness, that didn't happen because I didn't see it because of where it was happening on the stage. Or I might be talking about how in one dance scene, one of the young boys being trained to pickpocket accidentally pulls off the Velcroed beard of Fagin, the lead actor teaching them how to pickpocket. And the person that sat in upper mezzanine left didn't get to see that because of how skilled the actor was at putting it back on. So I'm sitting there arguing for something they didn't feel it was part of their own experience. And I believe that Judeo-Christianity is very similar to this, right? That there is the fact that God showed up on the stage in Christ, and that depending on your angle on that act, or let's just call it the Jesus act in the theater, you had a slightly different experience. And then when you go and try to compare that experience to someone else, you begin to realize that that person has a different opinion on what might have happened on that stage. Now, here's the thing. That doesn't mean that what Jesus was, who Jesus is actually that relative, but it just simply means your experience of what Jesus was doing. So that way, people from different places in the theater can actually open up the scriptures and see it from different angles. Now, maybe in a future cast, I'll take some time to show you some of the passages and how they're read from different angles based in different people's perspectives and angles on the stage. I think that would be a fun exercise. And maybe in a future cast, I'll share with you that we've been able to identify at least 6 different types of ways to view the life of Christ. All of them come from the fact that we see those different things at work in Christ's life. So therefore, different pockets around the theater understand the Jesus act slightly different. Now, I'm going to refer to those as denominations, right? So at their very best, and believe me, I know what might be going on in your head right now because it happens to me, is how screwed up denominationalism can feel, how petty at certain times in church history it became, and what questions it kind of nuanced its opinions, like what little thing that happened on the stage that they're all arguing about. Does Adam and Eve have belly buttons or something like that, right? So denominationalism can get weird. Let's just admit it, but that's simply because human beings are involved in it, finite individuals trying to make sense of the world. But at their very best, always start from first things. At their very best, denominationalism is a chance for different perspectives on a singular God to be able to emerge, right? And I'm going to suggest to you that that's one of the ways God wanted to bring revelation about in the world. When an infinite being is trying to express itself in the finite, it just can't fit, can it? Unless it creates infinite variety, right? And expresses a little bit of itself in different parts of the theater, right? So I want to submit to you that it's very best denominationalism. There's a lot of hope for it, or orders within the Catholic Church. And so let's just kind of approach this thing with a little grace, knowing that also there's great struggles that come in our differences. Again, thanks for your questions, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of Ask Jimmy the Dean.